All right, let's get started. We got this really interesting stack of sources you sent over, and they all seem to point towards one big topic, which is the importance of the English language today. So our mission, really, is to dig into your materials specifically. We want to pull out the key ideas, understand why English is seen as so valuable based only on what you've shared with us. We're sticking to the map you provided.
Absolutely. And your sources lay out a pretty clear case, point by point. Maybe we should start where your material does. It frames English as an international language, first off.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. English is
Yeah.
the sort of global connector. Why do the documents you shared describe it that way? What's the angle?
Well, what's striking is how they immediately talk about its reach. It's not just, oh, it's international. No, they highlight its actual use. For talking between people, from totally different countries, your sources kind of position it as the default, the common ground language for global chats.
That idea of common ground, that connection is powerful. And building on that, something else your sources made really clear, especially I think for anyone interested in learning, they focused quite a bit on English in education, mentioning all the books, websites, courses.
Exactly. And the insight there from your sources, it really seems to be about access. They basically underscore how knowing English can unlock this huge library of global knowledge, getting the latest research, using online learning sites, digging through archives. Your sources are saying English is often the main key.
Right, the key to a lot of information. So, okay, how does that play out practically? Like in the real world, your material also made a pretty strong argument for English in the job market. It specifically called out areas like business, tourism, and technology.
Yeah, and that brings up, economic connection as your sources detail it. They suggest companies in those fields, because they're international or deal with global customers, they heavily rely on English for everything, really.
Yeah.
Internal stuff, talking to clients. Your sources in play, it's often not just a nice to have skill, but, well, essential for jobs involving global teams or markets.
Okay, so essential for work. But it's not just work or study, is it? Your sources also brought up travel, how English helps there. Things like asking for directions, reading signs, just, basic interactions.
If you look at the picture your sources paint, it's about smoothing things out when you're in a new place. They suggest English acts like a lingua franca in, say, airports, hotels, tourist spots. It just makes navigating, dealing with stuff feel, well, easier, more accessible.
Makes sense. Easier travel. Now, shifting gears a bit, your material also touched on the internet and media, noting how much stuff, movies, music, news is out there in English.
hmm And what's interesting there is how your sources seem to frame that as access to, like, cultural conversations, global stories. They suggest knowing English lets you tap into a massive amount of entertainment and news directly. No translator needed. It's presented as the language for a lot of global pop culture and international news reporting. A direct window, basically.
A direct window. I like that. Okay, and the final piece. Your sources seem to wrap up by mentioning communication in, let's say, more formal international situations, like meetings, emails, that sort of thing.
Right, and that just reinforces its role as a kind of global standard, doesn't it? Your sources indicate that for those structured international dealings, think negotiations, professional emails across borders English is often the go-to. They show it's pretty vital for clear understanding and important global exchanges, both spoken and written.
So putting it all together, based purely on the sources you shared, we see this thread running through. Global connection, unlocking education, boosting careers, making travel smoother, accessing media, and handling formal international talk. Your sources really build a case for the wide-ranging, practical value English can offer you.
Yeah, and it leaves you with something to think about, drawing straight from the way your sources present things. If they show English as the main language for so much global discussion and recorded knowledge, well, how might mastering this one language, as your material suggests, give you a really unique, direct view into a massive slice of the world's ongoing conversations, its ideas, its different perspectives?
That's definitely a thought-provoking angle, built right from your material. Thanks again for sharing the sources that allowed us to have this deep dive today.